I have never told this story to anyone outside my family, because no one would believe me. I was blind for 16 years. Doctors said I would never see. There was no hope, no cure. But something happened in 1962, something that science still cannot explain. A priest touched my face, and my world changed forever. My name is Elena Ferraro. I was born in Naples, Italy in 1946. But I never saw Naples. I never saw anything. I came into this world in complete darkness. The doctors told my parents immediately, "Your daughter is blind. Her optic nerves are damaged. There is nothing we can do." My mother cried for weeks. My father didn't speak for days. But they never treated me like I was broken. They raised me with love. They taught me to live in a world I couldn't see. Growing up blind is not what people think. You don't miss what you never had. I didn't know what colors were. I didn't know what faces looked like. I didn't know what the sky was. My world was sounds, textures, smells. My mother's voice was warm, like honey. My father's hands were rough, like tree bark. The sun on my face was my only light. I learned to navigate by listening. I learned to read people by their voices. I built a complete world inside my mind, a world without images, a world of darkness. But there was always a question inside me, a question I never asked out loud. What does a face look like? I touched my mother's face 1,000 times. I felt her nose, her lips, her cheeks. But I couldn't see her. I couldn't imagine what seeing even meant. It was like trying to describe a color to someone who has never seen one. Impossible. My family was deeply religious. Every Sunday, my mother took me to church. I couldn't see the statues or the paintings, but I could feel the presence of something greater. I could hear the prayers echoing off the walls. I could smell the candles burning. Church was the one place where being blind didn't matter, because faith doesn't need eyes. In 1960, my mother heard about a priest in a small town called San Giovanni Rotondo. His name was Padre Pio. People said he could heal the sick. People said he had the wounds of Christ on his hands. People said he could read your soul. My mother became obsessed with him. She collected every newspaper article about him. She talked about him constantly. "We have to take Elena to see him," she said. My father was skeptical. "He's just a man," he said. "He can't cure blindness." But my mother wouldn't give up. In the summer of 1962, we finally made the trip. It took us 2 days to reach San Giovanni Rotondo. We traveled by train, then by bus, then on foot. The town was small, dusty, and hot. But it was filled with people. Thousands of people, all waiting to see one man. I remember the sounds of that day, the murmuring of prayers, the crying of the sick, the shuffling of feet on stone floors. My mother held my hand tightly. "We're almost there, Elena," she whispered. Almost there. I didn't know what to expect. I had heard so many stories about this priest, but stories are just words. And words meant nothing to someone who couldn't see. We waited for hours. The sun was brutal. My throat was dry. But my mother refused to leave. "He will see us," she kept saying. "I know he will." Finally, in the late afternoon, we were led into the church. It was cool inside, quiet. I could hear my own heartbeat. And then I heard footsteps, slow, heavy, coming toward us. I felt him before I heard him speak. A presence, something powerful, something I had never felt before. He stopped in front of me. I could hear his breathing, slow and steady. I could smell something strange, like flowers, like blood. And then he spoke. His voice was deep, gentle, like distant thunder. So this is the child who lives in darkness. I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, frozen. My mother started crying. Please, Padre, she begged. Please help my daughter. She has never seen anything, not once in her life. There was a long silence. I could feel him looking at me. Even though I couldn't see him, I knew his eyes were on my face. And then he did something unexpected. He laughed. Not a cruel laugh, a warm one. Darkness, he said, is not always a curse. Sometimes it is a gift. I didn't understand what he meant. He stepped closer to me. I could feel the warmth of his body. He raised his hand and touched my forehead. His fingers were rough, bandaged, but his touch was gentle. He leaned in close and whispered something in my ear, something in Latin, words I didn't understand. And then he said in Italian, "Tonight you will see, but not with your eyes." That was all. He pulled his hand away and walked past us. I heard his footsteps fade into the distance. My mother was sobbing. I just stood there, confused. What did he mean? That night we stayed in a small inn near the church. I was exhausted from the journey. I fell asleep quickly. And then something happened, something I still cannot fully explain. I had a dream. But it wasn't like any dream I had ever had, because I saw something. For the first time in my life, I saw. At first, there was just light, blinding, overwhelming light. I didn't know what light was, but somehow I recognized it. And then, slowly, the light took shape. A figure emerged, a man. He was wearing a brown robe. He had a beard, white and gray. He had wounds on his hands, and his eyes were the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Deep, warm, infinite. He looked at me and smiled. "Now you see," he said. And then I woke up. I opened my eyes, and I screamed, because for the first time in 16 years, I could see. The room was dark, but I could see the darkness. I could see shapes, shadows, outlines. I could see the window, the moonlight coming through. I could see my hands in front of my face. My mother woke up and rushed to me. "Elena, what's wrong? What happened?" I looked at her. I looked at her face for the first time in my life. "Mama," I whispered, "I can see you." My mother collapsed. She thought she was dreaming. She kept touching my face, asking me what I could see. I described everything: the room, the furniture, her face. She was more beautiful than I had ever imagined. We held each other and cried until the sun came up. The next morning, my father took me to a doctor. The doctor examined my eyes for over an hour. He used every tool he had. When he finished, he sat down slowly. His hands were shaking. "This is impossible," he said. "Her optic nerves were completely dead. I've seen her records. There was no way she could ever see." He looked at me with confusion. "But she's seeing now, perfectly." My father asked him how this could happen. The doctor shook his head. "I have no explanation. None. This is beyond medicine." We went back to the church that day. I wanted to see Padre Pio. I wanted to see the face I had seen in my dream. We waited for hours again, and when he finally came out, I saw him. The same face, the same beard, the same eyes, the same wounds. It was him, the man from my dream. I pushed through the crowd. I fell at his feet. "Padre," I said, "I saw you in my dream. You showed me how to see." He looked down at me with those infinite eyes. He didn't seem surprised. He simply nodded. "I told you," he said, "you would see, but not with your eyes." I didn't understand then, but I understand now. What happened to me that night was not a medical miracle. It was something deeper, something spiritual. Padre Pio didn't heal my eyes. He opened something inside me. He gave me a new way of seeing, a way that started in a dream and continued when I woke up. I am 79 years old now. I have seen the world. I have seen faces, sunsets, mountains, oceans. I have seen my children grow up. I have seen my grandchildren take their first steps. All of this because of one night, one dream, one touch from a priest who shouldn't have been able to do anything. People ask me if I'm sure it was real. They ask if maybe my eyes healed naturally. They ask if it was just a coincidence. I understand their doubts, but I know what I experienced. I was blind. I saw his face in a dream. And when I woke up, I could see. There is no medical explanation. There is no scientific reason. There is only faith. I have lived my entire life with this gift, and every single day I remember his words. Darkness is not always a curse. Sometimes it is a gift. I spent 16 years in darkness, and in that darkness I learned to see the world differently. I learned to listen, to feel, to sense. And when the light finally came, I appreciated it more than anyone who was born seeing ever could. Padre Pio gave me my sight. But more than that, he showed me that miracles are real, not because they break the laws of nature, but because they remind us that some things are beyond our understanding. And that's okay. My name is Elena Ferraro. I was blind for 16 years. And then I saw his face, and everything changed.